Because if you carry that on, you could say, well, what about 14 and 15-year-olds or 12 and 13-year-olds? You have to draw a line somewhere. And we do draw a line for things like, at what age are you responsible enough, or are you considered responsible enough to buy alcohol, for example? Should we reduce that to 16 also? So it is unfair that there are some 16, 17-year-olds that I'm sure are very responsible, very knowledgeable and capable of voting. There's also some 30-year-olds that have little information on which to vote. But taking this as an average, one has to have a cut-off somewhere. And there doesn't seem to be anything terribly wrong with 18.
Well, Neil, I'll come back at you. As I've stated, I think that they should have the vote. And, when I was growing up, I think you had to be 21 in order to vote. And then there was a big row about exactly what you're saying, where's the cut-off? And the cut-off went down to 18. So it's a perennial argument, really, as to what is the age. I mean, I personally think it should be mandatory voting from age 16 upwards.
But on that basis, what's the argument for 16 and not 14 then, for example?
Well, at 16, you can get married. At 16, it is legal to have sex. At 16, you can do all sorts of things which could potentially affect the rest of your life. So we do give them those opportunities.
Everything in our country that is supposed to be run by the government is not functioning properly, whether it be the railways, the NHS, or most importantly, our armed forces.
So, Brendan,
bringing
in
national service will just aggravate the army. All of a sudden, the army wants a professional fighting force.
Very true. Very true.
It does not want a lot of overweight, and lots of them are spotty-faced teenagers who will have no desire to be there, and they'll just, I don't know what they'll get them doing, sweeping the barracks, I guess. I'm older than a lot of people your age. My two brothers who are older than me, they both had to do their national service. And they both found it a complete blight on their lives. One of them didn't go to university, so he had to go straight in at 18, but the younger one, he was deferred because he was at university. But, as you said, you can't move on with your life because you have this business of national service.
It's unjust what's happened to Diane Abbott. And as a woman of colour, I feel that Keir Starmer has forgotten that he needs the black vote, whether he likes it or not. And I believe that Diane Abbott has been hanged out to dry. I believe that it's just unjust. And I'm actually considering my vote, whether to vote for Labour or to stay at home.
I mean, do you think that, so this actually could, you've always voted Labour, have you?
Yeah, yes.
And yet, so this could actually be something because you just don't like the way Starmer's handled the issue?
Also, I think, and disillusioned black voters who would literally abandon Labour. We won't switch to Tories, but I think we'll stay at home and it'll be a protest vote. We need a Prime Minister who challenges inequality at the root, particularly around criminal justice, employment, health, housing. And I've always heard Keir Starmer hark on about his proud record of being somebody that was head of, the justice system. Well, if that's the case, you can see how Diane Abbott's been treated is appalling. She was vilified by a Conservative Tory donor, and as a woman of colour, hearing that, if women look like Diana Abbott, he hates them. So what does that say for young black women who want to participate in the democracy process? It makes them feel like they don't have a voice. And I believe if he doesn't reinstate Diana Abbott, who did apologise immediately, I believe that he will lose a lot of votes from the black community. You think so?
You think this issue is costing the Labour Party support from black voters?
Yeah. Well, if you look at the Ford report, all the other reports that have been commissioned, I'm a black woman. My daughter wants to vote. She's 20 and she feels disillusioned. So I think that, we need to look at Labour. If it was a Jewish woman that made this comment, or somebody made a comment to a Jewish person or Muslim, I feel there'll be uproar. But because it's Diana Abbott, and I've seen how she's been the butt of jokes, I've seen how she's been, vilified in the media, I just don't like the way she's been treated. And somebody who's iconic as that, the first black woman MP, I think she should have been treated much better. And I think that Keir Starmer hasn't given her no grace, hasn't been, vocal in his support of Diana Abbott. But yet you can let Natalie Elphick be warmly embraced into the party, and that's another dog whistle for me, I'm afraid.
Well, I've got a couple of kids, twins, in a private school on a bursary. Now, people aren't talking about this at all. So,
just explain I know what it means. It means that you don't have any financial impact if you have managed to get a bursary. Is it full bursary?
Full bursary for both of them. We're very, very fortunate.
Wow.
And I'm a postman, mate.
Good.
So,
well done.
Right, so but that's you've got to apply for it every year though, so it's not a done thing for 7 years. You have to apply every single year for this.
Sorry, are your children in secondary or primary?
Yeah, they've gone into secondary.
You
school
have to
this
apply
year.
every year. I didn't know that.
Every year, yeah, you get grilled completely, but that's fine. Gosh. Because maybe I might win the lottery and then you don't get the bursary anymore. But that's beside the point. The point I'm trying to make, Nick, is very simple. If this goes through. Obviously, you will get all of the people, well, not all of the people, a lot of the people who are not multimillionaires will take their kids out because they won't be able to afford. Because you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. There are mini metros in the car park. Not everybody is a multimillionaire.
No, I've seen it with my own eyes. I've seen it. I know it.
They work so hard, a lot of these people, for all their life before that 25 grand a year, plus everything else that goes on top of it. And that'll have a knockdown effect. And I presume there'll be a hell of a lot less bursary money. So we'll all have to go into the state system as well. And there you go.
What does it mean to you that your twins are at private school, Nick?
Listen, the opportunity is incredible. The teaching is incredible. The facilities, they're very, very sporty, my two. They've got brilliant opportunities to go on to top universities. It's just we sat the test, we got through, and it's just a choice. It's a life choice, Nick. I could never afford it in a million years.
I think we should be mixing, but I think Nigel Farage has just been inflammatory himself.
Yes.
And the first thing he said is when you said, look, who are these people who are not mixing? And he said, look, these protesters, which the protesters themselves are a mix of people.
Absolutely.
Not just Muslims, Jewish people, atheist people, Christian people. But I think the whole thing is he's just trying to stoke division. And the protest, if you look at it, it's a bunch of people mixing, and it's people who are not with him is what he's against. That's really what he's talking about.
Yeah, or not like him.
Yeah, totally. And when you talk about British values, the thing that I see as British values is a sense of justice, and the cricketing term, a sense of fair play. Which you could argue the Conservative Party has been going against British values for some time now.
When you get these human beings on, these ministers, to state their case, would it be a good idea to have him on as well so that he can argue the point?
Well, what do you want the point to be made to them?
What is the point I want is, this is ridiculous. They think we're stupid. At the end of the day, all they've got to do is tax the super rich a little bit more.
They're not going to. They're not going to.
They say, so the Tories won't because it's not in their nature. That guy was incapable of thinking outside the box, of thinking anything different. It's more of the same. He was just oozing it. He was not capable of thinking already, which doesn't work. Now, I am going to say this, and I believe that Labour are lying to us. I hope they're lying to us, because it's our only hope. They've got to get into power because they can't do anything from opposition. And I think that slowly, not overnight, slowly things will start and they will start to do things differently. But for that minister to come on your show, Tom, and say what he's just said, oh my God.
The economic good times are coming back.
They're monsters. They are cretinous monsters. And the sooner we get them out of our lives, the better. And
listen, Simon, how you choose to vote is up to you, so good luck to you. The problem you've got, the problem all of us have got, the problem all the political parties have got. I mean, why would you want to win this general election if you know that at some stage you're going to have to find £19 billion worth of funding from somewhere in order to not do the cuts?
The only thing I can think is, and I hope, is that they genuinely do think they've got a chance. They genuinely do think that they're going to win, because I'm so loving to see all the tears in sports halls on general election night. And then they might actually realise that, hang on a minute, we got this wrong. But until then, the only hope we've got is the hope that Labour are playing the Ming Vase game, and they're treading so carefully so that they don't upset. They know they've got voters like me votes in the bag. They've
Right,
got it in the
so
bag.
they're not going to talk about this because they've got something planned that they're not going to talk about. They'll do it when they're in office and they'll sort it all out. That's the hope.
Right.
And you're right. And it's pathetic because at the moment, nobody is addressing this issue. Nobody is addressing the massive elephant in the room, which is we're going back to austerity, guys. Hello?
Yeah. Tom, listen, I'm going to make a statement. I've made it on here before 2 or 3 times. I stick by it. But I'm prepared to put my hands up if I've got it wrong, like I did with Brexit. My statement is this. Keir Starmer is going to be the best thing that has ever happened to this country. In order to find that out, we have to get him into power. But I firmly believe in all my bones and my heart that man is the answer to our problems.
I'm personally very left-wing. I like Becky Long-Bailey, John McDonnell, all that lot. But I learned. I changed. The country is not passionately left-wing. The country is slightly left of centre. And if that's where Keir Starmer's taking it, I don't care about the party. I care about the country. I want them in power because I want the NHS back. I want our wonderful NHS back. And we won't get that with the Tories. So if they're slightly left of centre, and I'm not, that's good enough for me.
I think everyone's looking at this from a completely biased position, if I'm honest.
Right.
See, you look at Trump, the only crime he is guilty of is loving America. You look at the crimes that Joe Biden should be charged on, and there's plenty of them, filtering money through Ukraine, his son...
you don't believe all this, James, do you? You're winding me up, man. You're winding me up, mate.
I am not winding you up at all.
Okay. You believe that Trump loves America more than himself, do you?
Absolutely. You go back to videos from 1980s, the 1990s. He'd always loved America and put America first.
What? So like the moment where he goes to Helsinki, right, and he stands next to Vladimir Putin, and he said he's more likely to believe the autocrat Russian president who hates America than he is his own security services. Did he love America more then?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. How? On what basis? On what basis do you believe what your country's basically sworn enemy, right, more than your own security services, and then still say, I love America? Tell me.
The CIA is the most corrupt organisation in the country.
Oh. James, my friend. James.
This is typical of the British media.
James. No, it's typical. You are typical of the crackpot movement, I would say, my friend. And honestly, if I were you, I would genuinely seek some help.